Hi everyone, welcome back to the gameplay of Infinitode the 2. So in this video I'm gonna show you the top 5 towers for a normal mode. So I'm gonna show you what in my opinion are the 5 strongest towers on as you're playing on normal. So once you reach your normal research maxed, which are the 5 towers that are gonna be the best ones. So the ones that for one reason or another you want to always place and use. So I have created as always here a custom map where I've just placed some miners and some experience modifiers just to make the towers a lot much faster. And yeah, so let's take a look at the top 5 towers. Now the first one is gonna be a completely support tower, and that is freezing. Now freezing, it's a tower that doesn't attack enemies, so it doesn't do any damage, but it provides a slow. And the most important thing about this tower is that of course the slow is very important, as it's gonna give more time for your other offensive towers to attack the enemies. But not only that, the first ability from freezing increases the damage that enemies take from all towers. And you can stack this effect up to 3 times. So if you consider 3.7% extra damage 3 times, that's an extra more than, I think it's 11.1%. So that's 11.1% extra damage that every enemy takes. If you have, of course, 3 freezing towers and you have all the enemies in range of these 3 towers at once. So that's the first thing. That's not just for the slow, that's gonna make the enemies also be closer to one another. So for example, for towers like cannon or sniper or multi-shot, you're gonna be able to or like even missile, so explosions, you're gonna be able to hit more enemies because of the fact that they're gonna be closer to one another because of the slow. So that's why it's so good. And this is the first tower, and this is a tower that you always want to use. No matter the gameplay, no matter the map, you're always gonna place at least one freezing tower. If you can also combo them, so you can place more than one. If the map is very large, you have a lot of platforms that you can use, always go for more than one, so you can stack the first ability, and therefore you can do even more damage to the enemies. The other abilities of this tower are not really that great. Now I'm gonna just play out here because I wanna just reach level 20, and I'm gonna show you what the stats look like at level 20. Level 20 is like the maximum level you can reach on normal, so once you max normal research. And you can see that here the range, well, doesn't increase with the passive experience. The freezing percent is going to be 22.6%. So this is the slow, so the slow is going to be 22.6%. The freezing speed is the how quickly, in terms of percentage over time, how quickly you can reach this maximum freezing percent. So that's pretty much it. And then as special stats, you have the ability to make the poison last longer and also to increase the length of the lightning. Now in terms of abilities, I always recommend to go for the first one. Now as regards the other two, many times it's good, like when you just place freezing, rather than getting this ability, you get this one first. This increases the experience that the tower gets, and therefore you can reach like level 7 even faster. You can then reach level 10 faster and level 20 faster. So normally getting this one, it's good for that reason. If you have already other ways to increase a lot your experience, then getting this one it's useless. But also getting this one, it's something that I don't like because of the fact that see that you lose 40% of freezing speed. You gain 20% extra slow, but then you lose freezing speed. And the problem is that once you upgrade this tower level 10, so you upgrade it maximally, you can see that the freezing percent is almost capped, because remember that the maximum slow is 65%. And you can see that if you already go for more power, you can get even closer to this freezing, to the maximum freezing percent. So many times going for this second ability, it's pointless because you just get a little bit of extra slow. You don't really gain that much. So that's why I recommend, like, if you place a tower you don't have like a setup like this one, go for the this ability first. You're gonna have your freezing tower level up faster, and then go for this one. So first and third ability. The level 10 is just the snowball, but you don't have to get any enemies in range to form it. So it's an ability that it's good, but at the same time it's not so good. But thankfully the ultimate makes it create snowballs even if there are enemies in range, and then you can generate the snowballs faster. Now, if you're placing multiple freezings, as you should, you can always get one freezing with more power. So in that way, you almost are capping the slow. So enemies are slowed almost by the maximum amount. And then the other two freezing towers, what you can do is you can instead go for the ultimate. So the other freezing towers are going to generate the snowballs, and snowballs are going to very simply just stun the enemy. I'm going to freeze it and I'm going to stun it in the spot. So that's pretty much how it works. So freezing tower is the very first tower, and it's definitely in the top 5 towers that you always want to use in the game. Now, second tower is going to be Venom. Now, this tower is a tower that you unlock a little bit later on in the game, but it's very, very good. Now, this tower has already a peculiar passive because of the fact that it's going to already prioritize enemies that do not have the poison. So the tower with each basic attack is going to apply poison to the enemies. And even if you have the tower on first, the tower is not going to keep on targeting the first enemy, but it will try to target another enemy that doesn't have poison. So it will already try by itself to spread poison to as many enemies as possible. So for this tower, you don't even need to change, for example, to random targeting. You can just leave it to first, and you can just poison as many enemies as possible. And I'm gonna once again just let the game start so that it can reach level 20 here, and we'll take a look at the stats. Alright, here we go. So these are the stats once you max the tower, pretty much level 20. And yeah, especially the special stat, that is poison duration, because it's 13.3 seconds. And now, because of the very nice combo with freezing tower, because the passive, the special stat of the freezing tower increases poison, you always gonna combo these two towers together. So as I said before, you always gonna place a freezing tower, and therefore that's why placing also a Venom tower is always good, because you can already make the poison last much longer. And poison is just a damage over time effect, so it's gonna tick even if the enemies are not attacked. They're gonna still receive time damage, as you can see right here. And now if you upgrade the tower level 10, it's not super expensive, the upgrades, pretty much very similar to freezing. And you can see that these are the stats once you upgrade it at level 10. The damage is not so much, but it's pretty decent, and especially the fact that with the damage over time effect, you keep on doing damage with the poison. That scales up, of course, with the damage that you have. And you can see the tower here focusing enemies without poison. So see that the tower is attacking these enemies rather than attacking these ones. So first it prioritizes enemies without poison, and then once every enemy has poison, then it just follows the targeting that you have chosen. So that's pretty much it. In terms of abilities, you're always gonna go for the first ability, because that increases the damage that you do with the poison. And then as second ability, it depends on what you prefer. Like I always prefer going for the second ability, because that increases also the on-hit damage that you do. So when the projectile hits the enemy, it's gonna do 3.5 times more damage. So that's a lot of extra damage. The third ability instead increases the projectile speed, so you're gonna reach the enemies faster. And if the enemy is dead, so as the projectile is flying in the air, if the enemy dies to poison or to other towers or to anything else, the projectile is gonna automatically target another enemy, so it's not gonna be wasted. Remember that the projectiles from Venom already follow the enemies, so it's not like a projectile that if the enemy moves too fast or anything is gonna miss. You're always gonna hit the enemies with Venom. So that's why I think that the third ability is not really that great. And I would just recommend going for the first two. Level 10 is very nice because it's a little bit of a cloud poison around the tower, and you do some extra damage to the enemies as they are inside this cloud poison. You can see it right here. It's this very small green circle. And then lastly, in terms of ultimate or power, I would recommend you to always go for the ultimate because it makes poison to last 22% longer. And not only poison, but any debuff lasts 22% longer. So it's like stun lasts a little bit longer, poison, the knockback, then any other debuff that you can think about, like exploding, bonus coins, the same poison as I said before, the flames, ignition, and all the stuff. All the effects are gonna last 22% longer. So that's of course something very nice. And not only that, but also when an enemy dies, it has a certain chance. In this case, for me that have normal research maxed, is 41% chance to spread the debuffs that they have to other enemies. So it's like a mini explosion, but in the explosion you don't do damage, but you spread the debuffs. So it's a 41% chance. It's pretty high, I would say. And yeah, so that's why I always recommend going for the ultimate on this tower. And yeah, that's it. So you can see the level 10, the range is pretty okay, I would say. So remember that this tower is very good when you place it close to the beginning. So you place poison on as many enemies as possible, then they're gonna start receiving damage. Even if the tower will not be able to attack them, they will still receive the damage over time effect. And always remember to come with a freezing tower to make the effect last even longer. And yeah, that's it. You can leave it on first. Now let's move on to the third tower. That is Tesla. Definitely makes the top 10. This is one of the strongest early game towers in the game because it has already it can damage a lot of enemies at once. Now in this case, I'm gonna once again just round the timer here so that the tower levels up. Level 20, that's the boss unfortunately, but I think I can make it. And in this case, the special stat of the tower is lightning length. So this is a flat number, and this is the amount of tiles lightning can travel to. So for example, if you're hitting an enemy right here, depending on where the tower is placed, the lightning can still chain and can still continue until 12.2 tiles. So that's a lot of tiles. Remember that each of these squares right here is considered one tile. So already we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So imagine at the 6 tiles, that's the maximum distance at which lightning can travel. So that's a lot of tiles. So you can do damage to enemies in a very large area. Every time that you do damage to one enemy, the next enemy takes 63.4%. So each time you have, in this case, a reduction of lightning damage of 37%. So that's a lot. But then there is a minimum. I think the minimum is 10%. So you always do at least 10% of the damage, even if you have already hit a lot of enemies. Now the abilities, you can of course increase the damage. And then as second ability, I always recommend to go for the second one. Because yes, you lose a little bit of attack speed, but you gain a lot of damage. You gain 55% extra damage. So that's what I always get. Third ability is not that great because it increases lightning length that is already very large, and you only can cap it, so you reach like 15.5 tiles. And then the minimum damage becomes, in this case, 22.5% from 10%. I think the minimum might be 15%. So now I'm looking at this 22.5. The minimum damage might be 15%, not 10%, as I said before. But anyway, it just increases the minimum damage. So I don't really think it's that great of an ability. And then regarding the ultimate or power, it depends on what you need the tower to. So if you need the tower in the early game and you want to go for the ultimate, because as long as you kill enemies, you can create this ball lightning that can do some additional damage. Unfortunately, ball lightning doesn't add any kills or any stats to the tower. So this is something that probably is a bug, like it shouldn't work like this, but unfortunately it's not like minigun where the micro turrets, the micro guns, are gonna add to the tower stats. So the kills, the gold and all the stuff. But unfortunately here, ball lightning is gonna still give you gold overall, coins, but it's not gonna give any experience to Tesla, and it's not gonna give any kills. So that's unfortunate, and that's why like in this case, when you reach level 20, you can't get any further, so it doesn't matter if you don't get any experience. But on Endless, you can go up to level 100 if you get this ultimate, and you have only a Tesla. The Tesla is gonna start leveling up much slower, because Ball Lightning is gonna steal all the experience and all the kills, and that's gonna be wasted. Like you're not gonna be gaining anything. So it's very, very bad, and I hope that they're gonna fix it soon. But anyway, on normal, that you can't get past level 20, definitely the ultimate is always better for the early game. If instead you're going for the late game, there are towers in the late game that are gonna always do more damage, so they're gonna take the kills. And because you can only create the ball lightning when the Tesla kills enemies, that's better. That's what's better, going for more power instead, because you get a little bit more of all the extra stats. And also here, I haven't upgraded the tower, I'm gonna get it now level 10, and you can see that lightning damage gets capped. This 95% is the maximum, so you only lose 5% each time you are attacking a different enemy. The range becomes much larger, very, very nice. And yeah, in this case, I'm gonna just go for more power, because I'm gonna just place it and sell it. So yeah, that's it. So that's this tower. You can see here the pretty decent damage it deals to this boss, even if it's alone and it's on a self-refund tile. And yeah, so that's the third tower that we're gonna take a look today. Now the fourth tower is Gauss. Now Gauss, it's a tower that I already said in Endless is very strong, but in my opinion it's not in the top 5, because of the fact that on Endless Research you can make other towers so much stronger that then Gauss, it's only good if you want to reach like super high waves and you can go to the very late game. Instead, on normal, there are the leaderboards, Gauss becomes a very useful tool to be able to get very high stats, very high scores, and therefore higher position in the leaderboard. So unfortunately here I don't have a good spot to place Gauss. Like I could place it right here, but anyway, I already showed you Gauss in many other cases, so even if it can't attack, I think it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna just make it level up, level 20 here. Alright, here we go. And the Gauss, you always need to place it close to resources. That's why if you place it like this is a complete useless Gauss. So you want to place it always close to some miners. And yeah, Gauss has a lot of damage. It's very expensive as well. It's a very, very expensive tower to upgrade up to level 10. So very likely I'm not gonna be able to here, yeah, because I don't have enough coins. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that this is a pretty good tower because the damage it does, and therefore you can survive a lot of waves, and therefore you can get more score. The fact that at level 10 you're gonna be able to stun the enemies as well. The first enemy can also explode, so some more damage. Then you can go for nanoparticles that increases the damage by a lot, like 1.2 times higher. And you can see here that's like more than the damage you have right here. But unfortunately you don't kill the enemies anymore. So this it's not good, especially for the late game, because of the fact that yes, you're gonna be able to bring the enemies down to that 10% HP, but then that 10% HP might mean millions of HP left, so it might not be that easy. But you can always go for like a flamethrower ultimate that can, when you upgrade it level 10, it can kill enemies below 5% HP, so you can try to combo that. But many times I believe that if you're placing Gauss in a position where it's gaining a lot of experience, getting the second abilities, it's useful, because you can make it gain even more damage. Like as the game progresses, it still keeps on gaining more damage, and therefore of course it's better. The third ability is also good if you're only placing Gauss as a support tower, so you don't really care about the damage it does. You're placing more to like gain coins, to give more time for the miners, to have double mining speed. If you're using it like that, then maybe the third ability can also be good. Like sometimes I go for the first and the third ability, sometimes I go for the first and the second, sometimes I go for the second and the third, so it just depends on the gameplay and what you want to do. But yeah, most of the times, sometimes it's just better like to get the third ability and then not get the second or the first one. So just leave them without getting them. So in that way you don't have any drawback, because remember that if you get the second ability before Gauss gets to level 20, it's gonna make Gauss level up super slowly. So you only wanna get this ability after Gauss is max level. So remember about that. It's very important. Instead, you can get the third ability every time, and if you want to kill the enemies with Gauss, you can just avoid getting the first ability, even if you're not gonna gain that much damage, but you're gonna be able to kill the enemies, so you're not gonna leave them at 10% HP. And then for ultimate or power, once again, if you're gonna go for the score, then going for the ultimate is almost always better, because you're gonna give more mining speed to the miners. They're gonna be able to double to mine more resources, so more score. So at the end of the day, it's always better. Power instead, it's better if you're just aiming to get like the highest way possible regardless of the score. So but yeah, it just depends on what you need. But like ultimate, it's almost every time it's just the best option. And yeah, that's Gauss. And then the last tower that makes the top 5 strongest tower in the game is Crusher. Now Crusher, it's the tower that has been added in this last patch, this big 1.8 update, and it's a tower that has very small range, but the fact that it can hold enemies and it can give more experience if the towers attack the enemies as they're being held inside, can provide some additional counterplay, especially if you place some Crushers like around the map. And therefore, even if some enemies can sneak past the first one, then you have another Crusher and then another and so on. Just remember that each Crusher that you have makes the next Crusher that you want to place more and more expensive. So for example here, 350, the next one is going to be 700 and so on. So it's going to become increasingly more expensive. But the upgrades, so the upgrade level, the coins that you need, doesn't get any more expensive, even if you have like a ton of Crushers now. So remember about that. And then now here I'm gonna just upgrade it level 10. I'm gonna just leave it here level 20, and you can see right here the stats. All right, duration is the amount of time Crusher is gonna hold the enemies inside, and this instead is the bonus experience that Crusher itself or other towers get when they attack enemies held inside. And now the ability, you're always gonna go for the middle one because you're gonna be able to hold more enemies. And unfortunately here, this map is already very bad because you can see that Crusher doesn't reach any of the other part of the map, so these enemies will already be able to sneak past. But as you're playing on a normal map, you should be able to have other platforms in better spots than this one. Second ability, it depends on what you want. So if you wanna have just a Crusher for support, then you can go for even more bonus experience that can be given to itself or to other towers. If instead you can go for more damage, if you're gonna not only hold the enemies but also damage them quite quick. So yeah, that's it. Level 10 is nice, but at the same time it's not that great because it's very low chance, and enemies, especially early on, are gonna get killed super quickly, so you're not gonna even have the chance of disorientate them. But in the late game, as enemies get more and more HP, this can be quite nice, because the zombie enemies, they're gonna be doing damage depending on their maximum HP. So if their HP is millions, then they're gonna be doing millions of damage. So of course it's not 100%, I think it's a certain percentage of that HP, so it's not like 100% damage, but it's still pretty decent damage. So this is a pretty cool ability for especially the late game. And then in terms of ultimate or power, it depends once again on the usage. You can go for more power if you're going to have more general stats here. Instead, if you're going for a crusher, especially in a position that is pretty far away from the beginning of the map, so when the enemies, if they are disoriented, they can walk a lot of platforms backwards, then that's where getting the ultimate can give you some extra coins. So at the end of the day, it's just some extra coins that you get. It's not damage, it's not anything else, it's just coins. So getting more coins means you can gain more, you can get more upgrades, you can place more towers, you can increase your miners faster, and so on. So it just depends on what you need Crusher for, what purpose it has in your strategy. And yeah, that's it. So that's it for the top 5 towers. Now, honorable mention is Blast. I'm gonna place it as honorable mention because this tower, it's a lot worse compared to what it was before the 1.8 update, exactly as like Splash, Cannon, and Missile. But it's still pretty good because of the fact that if you can just place 1 or 2 Blast towers in pretty decent spots, they can provide you with some extra stun. So, you know, exactly as it was for freezing, is the same. Stunning enemies gives more time for your other towers to do damage. So it's always a good thing. And also, Blast has some pretty small range, unfortunately. And you only get the range increase when you upgrade it level 6. So that's the only level where you gain some extra range. And then that's it. So not even until level 20, until level 10 you can get any extra range. And yeah, you can see the stun duration at level 20 is 3.74 seconds, so it's not a lot of stun, but you can make it larger with the third ability. So I always recommend going for this one if you're using a Blast to stun, and that's the main function of Blast, so always go for this one. And then I recommend always go for the middle ability, the second one, because it increases the attack speed. More attack speed means higher chance to stun. Remember that the stun chance is this number right here, so it's not 100%. It's like, in this case for me, it's 26.5%, and therefore the more you can attack, the more likely you're gonna be able to stun enemies. So that's why you're gonna go for more attack speed. And then the throwback here, it's pretty good, but remember that it's just once for each enemy, and it has a certain chance. It's just 13% chance. Now, in terms of ultimate or power, I would say the power is always better because you can see that you gain even more attack speed, you gain more stun chance, and you also gain some extra damage. That's never such a bad idea. Now, the ultimate, before I just thought it was trash and it was a super bad ultimate. But then after trying it out, I can see its usage. Because of the fact that if you can place a Blast in a very decent spot where it's almost guaranteed that you can throw back at least once every single enemy, then the fact that when the enemies are thrown backwards, they receive a lot more damage, like 350% extra damage is a lot. So you know, it can be useful because you're just doing more damage to the enemies, exactly as it happened for the first ability of freezing, where you're doing just more damage. Anything that can make the enemies take more damage can make you survive longer. So this ultimate is it can be good, only though if you have Blast in a very good spot and you know 100% that even if it's a very slight chance, you're gonna be always able to throw backwards at least once every enemy. So yeah, in that case, the ultimate could be good because you can increase the damage that the enemies take during this throwing backwards, and therefore, yeah, you can survive longer. But if you don't have it in that way, then I would say that power is always the best because you have a more stun chance, more attack speed, and it's just better overall. And yeah, that was the honorable mention, and then that's pretty much it. Because Like, I'm pretty sure that in this game, every tower can be used in different scenarios and for different purposes. For example, flamethrower can be good in certain scenarios, like minigun, or even the basic tower, or can be good. But in my opinion, they don't make the top 5, so they are just below these towers I've showed you today. So yeah, that was the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see ya. Bye bye.